like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.
All right, let's kick off this deep dive. We're tackling something pretty interesting today.
Yeah.
Elon Musk's tiny home.
Oh, this should be good.
It's kind of a head scratcher, right? You've got a whole pile of sources here, YouTube video, articles, all buzzing about this.
Yeah.
So we got to ask, is this just a billionaire, being a little eccentric, or is there something deeper here?
It's certainly not your typical billionaire move.
Right. Like usually we picture
Huge mansions.
exactly sprawling estates, not
$50,000 prefab.
$50,000 prefabricated home. Yeah. And the sources are saying he's actually living in this thing.
Wow.
This Boxable casita, they call it. It's near the SpaceX headquarters down in Boca Chica, Texas.
Interesting.
375 square feet.
Wow.
But it's not just small. It's like designed to be super efficient.
Right.
The whole thing is foldable.
Foldable.
Yeah, they ship it all compact, then unfold it right there on site.
That's incredible.
Pretty wild, right?
Yeah, and that's a big part of what makes prefab construction so appealing.
Oh, wow.
You know, building the house in a factory, shipping it in pieces. It means you can assemble it super quick, way less waste.
Makes sense.
And with the casita specifically,
Yeah.
it's all modular units.
Oh, like building blocks?
Exactly. So you can customize it,
Oh, cool.
arrange them how you want.
So how long does it take to put this thing together?
Well, the sources say
Oh, come on. A few hours.
a few hours, yeah.
That's faster than some IKEA furniture I've wrestled with. But, okay, back to the big question.
Yeah.
Why would someone like Elon Musk, who could have any house he wants,
Right.
choose this?
Well, there are a few theories floating around, and
Lay on me.
well, first off, there's Musk's whole thing about sustainability.
Yeah.
He's been really vocal about that.
Reducing our impact.
Exactly. And a smaller, more energy efficient home fits right in with that.
Remember that tweet where he said he was selling all his possessions?
Oh, yeah. That was a big one.
Seemed like he was really trying to simplify,
Yeah. Embrace minimalism.
Minimalism, exactly.
Seems like a genuine thing for him.
And we can't forget the practical side of things either.
True.
Living right next to SpaceX headquarters, that commute's got to be a breeze.
Yeah, no kidding.
Plus, he's always flying between companies, continents.
Right, constantly on the move.
Maybe that mobility appeals to him,
It's like a high-tech, super efficient base camp.
Base camp, I like that.
Yeah, but hold on. There's this one detail in the sources that throws a bit of a curveball.
Oh,
What's that? Apparently, Musk mostly uses the casita as a guest house.
wait, seriously?
Yeah.
So even billionaires have friends crashing on the pull-out couch.
Apparently so.
That's kind of funny.
It's a good reminder.
What's that?
Not to jump to conclusions,
Right?
We tend to put people, especially public figures, in these neat little boxes.
Yeah, we do.
But there's always more to the story.
For sure.
Now, this Boxable casita itself,
Oh, yeah. Let's geek out a little.
our listeners would eat this up.
Right. Durability, speed of assembly, all the customization.
It's like a tiny home on steroids.
Totally. And speaking of durability, the sources talk about how tough this thing is.
Oh, yeah, they use these steel-reinforced concrete panels.
Really?
Yeah, makes it fire-resistant, can withstand crazy winds.
So like hurricane-proof?
Pretty much built to last, especially with all the extreme weather we're seeing.
Smart thinking.
And still, just a few hours to assemble the whole thing.
That's wild.
Prefab panels, snap-together design.
Less labor, less waste.
And ultimately, a more affordable home.
That's huge.
And then there's the modular design you can add on, change things as your needs evolve.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all thing.
Exactly, it adapts to your life.
But here's the kicker. Even before Elon Musk moved in,
Yeah.
Boxable already had a massive wait list.
Wow, really?
Like 120,000 customers.
That's incredible.
Over 5,000 deposits. Even companies placing bulk orders.
So it's not just individuals, businesses are seeing the potential too.
Exactly. Which tells me this isn't just a fad. There was already a demand for this kind of housing.
Right, it wasn't just a billionaire's whim,
It tapped into something bigger.
a real trend.
So maybe this tiny home thing is more than just a fleeting moment.
Yeah, it makes you wonder.
Could this be the start of a whole revolution in how we think about housing?
That's a great question, and one we'll definitely explore further.
All right, let's dive in.
But first,
Yeah.
we got to talk about the challenges and opportunities this movement faces.
Okay, sounds good. Let's do it.
All right, welcome back to our deep dive.
We're picking up right where we left off.
Elon Musk's tiny home and what it all means for the future of housing.
Last time we were talking about all these trends that seem to be pointing towards tiny homes,
Yeah.
sustainability concerns, rising housing costs, remote work. It all kind of fits.
And let's not forget the Boxable casita itself.
Oh, yeah, that thing is slick.
All those innovations, speed of assembly, durability, the customization options.
Game changers for sure.
Yeah, definitely makes you think.
Is this just a fad? Or are we witnessing a real shift
Right.
in how we think about where we live?
That's the big question, isn't it? To really get to the bottom of it, we got to look past the hype and consider the bigger picture.
Okay, so what kind of impact could tiny homes have on, like, communities, cities, the environment?
Well, let's start with the environment.
Oh.
We all know traditional construction, it's not exactly eco-friendly.
Yeah, uses a ton of resources.
A lot of waste.
Not great.
Tiny homes, on the other hand, they use less materials, less energy for heating and cooling.
Right.
And they often incorporate things like solar panels, rainwater harvesting.
So they're just inherently better for the planet.
From the ground up.
Makes a lot of sense.
And that's a huge selling point these days.
Yeah, with climate change and all.
Absolutely. But think bigger. Imagine entire neighborhoods, even cities designed around tiny homes.
Wow.
More green spaces, walkable areas, shared resources.
That's like a whole different way of thinking about urban planning.
It is a shift away from those sprawling suburbs.
Yeah.
Huge houses, constant need for more and more space.
I'm thinking about all those empty lots you see in cities,
Right.
just sitting there unused.
Prime real estate.
Could tiny homes be a way to breathe new life into those areas?
Absolutely. Think about it. Affordable housing communities, filling in those gaps in urban areas.
Yeah.
Even temporary housing after disasters or for refugees.
Wow, so versatile.
They can adapt to all sorts of needs.
But let's be real for a second. There are challenges too, right?
Oh, for sure. We touched on zoning laws, building codes.
Yeah, those can be a real roadblock.
They were mostly written with traditional homes in mind.
Right.
Don't always mesh well with the unique aspects of tiny homes.
And what about financing?
Yeah, that's another hurdle.
It's not like you can just walk into a bank and get a mortgage for a tiny house.
Not always easy, no.
So there are some systemic issues to overcome.
Definitely. But I'm optimistic. As this movement gains momentum, more communities, policymakers, they're starting to see the potential.
That's good.
We're already seeing some cities tweak their regulations.
Oh, to be more tiny home friendly.
Exactly. And new financing options are popping up too.
So it feels like we might be on the verge of a real turning point.
It's definitely possible. And if that happens,
Yeah?
Elon Musk's tiny home, it might be remembered as a symbol
Oh, interesting.
of this shift, something that helped bring it into the mainstream.
It's amazing how one person's choice can have such a ripple effect.
It is, but let's not forget all the folks who are already living in tiny homes.
Right, before it was cool.
They're the real trailblazers.
Yeah, they've been building communities, sharing their knowledge, showing everyone that this lifestyle can be practical and fulfilling.
Exactly. Speaking of fulfilling,
Yeah,
I'm curious, what's it actually like to live in one of these things?
yeah. What's the trade-off? Is it worth giving up all that space?
Well, our sources suggest it's not just about giving something up.
Yeah.
There's a real sense of gain for a lot of tiny home dwellers.
Like what? What are they getting out of it?
It seems to be about intentionality, that idea we were talking about.
Yeah.
Choosing to live with less, and in doing so, finding more freedom, more fulfillment.
So it's less stuff, more life.
Exactly. Our sources highlight things like financial freedom, environmental consciousness, the desire for a simpler, more meaningful life.
It's about experiences, not possessions.
Exactly.
I can definitely see the appeal, but there have to be downsides too, right?
Of course, our sources don't shy away from the challenges.
What?
Well, limited space is the obvious one.
Yeah, you got to be really strategic.
You have to be mindful about what you bring in, get creative with storage.
I imagine that forces you to confront your attachment to stuff.
It does. It's about figuring out what you really need versus what you just think you need.
That's a good point.
It's a process of letting go, focusing on experiences instead of possessions.
Makes sense.
And for some people, that can be a big adjustment.
For sure. What about the social side of things? Like having friends over, family gatherings?
Yeah, that can be tricky.
You can't exactly throw a huge party in a tiny house.
True. You might have to utilize outdoor space, find community areas for larger groups.
Makes sense.
But a lot of tiny home dwellers find it actually brings them closer to their loved ones.
Really? How so?
Well, when you have less space,
Yeah.
you tend to spend more quality time together, less distractions,
Oh, I see.
more focus on connection, quality over quantity.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about privacy?
Yeah.
It seems like it would be hard to get some alone time in such a small space.
It's a valid concern, but tiny home design has come a long way.
Yeah.
There are all sorts of clever layouts and features now that create separation, privacy, even in a small footprint.
So it's not just about cramming everything into a tiny box.
Not at all. There's a lot of thought put into these designs.
That's really impressive.
And that's what's so exciting about this movement.
Yeah.
It's pushing the boundaries of architecture, design, sustainability.
Challenging the status quo.
Forcing us to rethink what a home can be.
You know, one of our sources had this quote. It really stuck with me.
Oh, what was it?
It's not about the size of the space, but the size of your life within it.
I love that. It really captures the essence of it, doesn't it?
It does. It's not about deprivation. It's about freedom.
Freedom from clutter, financial burdens, from conventional thinking.
So where do we go from here? What's the next chapter in the tiny house story?
That's the beauty of it, isn't it? The future is wide open.
Yeah.
As more people embrace this lifestyle, we're going to see continued innovation.
Right.
Design, materials, technology. We might even see entire communities built around tiny homes.
Wow.
Integrated into urban areas in ways we haven't even imagined yet.
And maybe, just maybe, Elon Musk's tiny home will inspire even more people to question their own assumptions about what a home should be, how they want to live their lives.
It's an exciting thought, and I, for one, can't wait to see what happens next.
All right, so we've talked about the trends, the challenges. Now let's get down to the nitty-gritty.
Yeah.
What is it actually like to live in a tiny home?
You know, it's interesting. Our sources paint a picture that it's not just about sacrifice.
Right.
There's a real sense of empowerment for a lot of tiny home dwellers.
Okay, what kind of empowerment?
A lot of it goes back to that intentionality we were discussing.
Yeah.
Making a conscious choice to live with less stuff.
Less is more kind of thing.
And through that process, they find more freedom, more fulfillment.
Okay, so less stuff, more life.
Exactly. The sources talk about things like financial freedom.
Makes sense.
Being more environmentally conscious
Yeah.
and having a simpler, more meaningful life.
Shifting the focus from possessions to experiences.
Exactly.
That definitely resonates with me, but I mean, there's got to be some downsides.
Of course.
First touched on the limited space.
Right. You have to be super mindful about what you bring in.
Yeah.
Get creative with storage solutions.
That must be a big change for people used to having, a lot of room.
It can be a real adjustment.
Right.
It's all about learning to live with less, letting go of things.
Letting go. Yeah, it's a process.
But a lot of folks find it liberating. They realize they don't need as much as they thought.
That's interesting.
And they start to appreciate the things they do have even more.
Okay, what about the social aspect?
Oh, yeah.
Having friends over, family gatherings. Is that even doable in a tiny home?
It takes some creativity, for sure.
Right.
You might have to make more use of outdoor space or find community areas for larger groups.
Right.
But a lot of tiny home dwellers say it actually strengthens their relationship.
Really? How so?
Well, think about it.
Yeah.
Less space means you're spending more quality time together, less distractions, more focus on connecting.
Quality over quantity.
Exactly.
But what about privacy? I mean, living in such close quarters,
Yeah.
it seems like it'd be hard to find some alone time.
It's a valid concern, but tiny home design has gotten really smart.
Oh, yeah.
There are all these clever layouts, features to create separation, privacy, even in a tiny space.
Wow. So it's not just about cramming everything into a tiny box.
Not at all. There's real artistry in these designs.
That's awesome.
And that's what's so cool about this movement.
Yeah.
It's pushing the boundaries of design, architecture, sustainability.
Making us rethink what's possible.
Exactly.
It's amazing how this all ties back to that quote we mentioned.
It's not about the size of the space, but the size of your life within it.
Yeah. Powerful stuff.
It really highlights the core of this lifestyle. It's not about deprivation. It's about conscious choices.
Living in alignment with your values.
Exactly.
Well, this deep dive has been incredibly thought-provoking.
It really has.
It seems like Elon Musk's tiny home, it's just one part of a much bigger story.
Yeah.
A movement towards a simpler, more sustainable way of life.
And it'll be fascinating to see where it goes from here. As more people embrace this lifestyle, we can expect even more innovation in design, technology, community development.
Who knows? Maybe this is the beginning of a real paradigm shift.
Maybe it is.
In how we think about housing. And maybe even about life itself.
It's exciting to think about.
Well, if you're intrigued by what you've heard today,
Yeah.
I encourage you to keep exploring. There's a wealth of information out there.
Absolutely. Blogs, documentaries, online communities.
Connect with others who are passionate about this lifestyle.
You might even find yourself drawn to this simpler, more intentional way of living.
It's definitely something to consider.
It is.
Well, that's it for our deep dive today. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.
We'll see you next time.
Sound the alarm. I'm coming up. We'll have a ball. I'm sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.